Welcome back to Yang Daily. I'll be your host, Alex Cheney, bringing you all the Yang news you need to live your life right. All right, finally an episode that isn't 20 minutes long. I think you're going to like it, though. Shout out to our Tier 3 patrons, Peter Park and Shay Meehan, as well as all our other patrons. You guys are awesome. And the first blooper reel is released. It should be accessible to all Tier 2 and up patrons on the Patreon. It's super high quality. Trust me. Also, we've got a new set of polls to help me get a handle on how engaged our audience is on social media and whether these Twitter threads I put together are being used. Please take a moment to click the first link and give your input. It really helps if everyone answers, and it should only take 30 seconds or so. I'd really appreciate it. All right, on to the news. Let's start off on a happy note today. In response to the disturbing rise of the Proud Boys hate group, the LGBTQ community has responded in the best way possible by co-opting the Proud Boys name and turning it into a term for the gay community to spread messages of gay love. I cannot accurately describe how amused I am by this, but be sure that my amusement is great. They do appear to be very proud. Bravo, and keep it coming. In sadder news, RIP Regal. The cinema chain is shutting down all of its theaters in both the US and the UK, one more victim of the Trump virus. This one's gonna make my dad sad. We had a lot of good times in Regal theaters. Yang pointed out today that the WWE, in addition to controlling their wrestlers' names, likenesses, schedules, and most everything else, is now forcing performers to sign new contracts that include ownership of their Twitch accounts. Streaming on Twitch will become a work obligation, and if talent don't stream, they will forego earnings, be suspended, or face penalties. Still independent contractors. Unfreaking real. The virtual brunch with Yang and Kim that we announced before is available now at the link below. Humanity Forward is now selling Cancel Poverty masks, which are probably my favorite design so far. Check it out at the shop in the links. Jaime Harrison had his debate against Lindsey Graham and absolutely destroyed him on the Supreme Court hypocrisy. I mean, just nailed him to the wall and watched him squirm. The clip's in the links, it's really good stuff. In the broader debate, Jaime also did a great job. He spoke to the real issues while Lindsey went to partisan talking points every single time, like he literally was framing everything as liberals versus conservatives, which is also a bastardization of the terms, by the way, and was just straight up calling on conservatives to vote for him for no other reason than to stop liberals from winning. It was pathetic. Jaime even called him out right from the opening speech, saying Lindsey would resort to scare tactics, and then Lindsey said he wouldn't, and by the end of his own opening speech, he had used 3 different fear-mongering statements, including socialism. Incredible contrast. Well done, Jaime. Speaking of congressional candidates, Washington's Humanity Forward candidate Marilyn Strickland visited Nerds for Humanity for a discussion. If you haven't heard her speak before, she is a force. Link below. Shout out to Kent, who was looking for someone to house him so he can do voter registration in North Carolina. This is the kind of action that we all need to be undertaking in these unprecedented days of our republic. Not all of us can pick up and go to a state, but you can do this from home, calling or writing letters to people who have been stricken from the voter rolls, or helping them get signed up and such, as my whole family has been doing. This really matters, guys. We need to turn out the vote like never before. Kent has already found lodging, by the way, and shout out as well to everyone who offered to house him. I was listening to a recent Lincoln Project podcast episode. Great podcast, by the way, highly recommend it. And they touched on a topic that I really hadn't thought on much before, but which we all should be. In fact, it needs to be featured more in schools. That topic is the role George Washington played in the founding of our country and in history in general. Of course, it's taught that Washington was the general who liberated America from England and our first president. That's all cool. However, the point that gets glossed over is the most important one, the one that truly made America exceptional, which is that Washington was multiple times offered the chance to become king of America and against almost all historical precedent, against the wishes of many of his countrymen, and to the shock of all the world's rulers, he walked away from that lure of power. He steadfastly refused to become yet another monarch or dictator. He refused to give in to the temptation of ruling as he saw fit, of taking the reins and making everything as he thought it should be. He knew that it would be the death of the free republic that he had fought for and refused to give in, even when his own people asked for it. That is character. That is patriotism. That is what made America the land of the free. Not the taking of power, but the peaceful relinquishing of it. It was almost unheard of at the time, and every 4 years since that time, the miracle of democracy has been carried forth in America. Our leaders have willingly relinquished their power to the next leader chosen by the people. However flawed the process, this is the founding principle of America that makes all the rest possible. Given current circumstances and the twisted corruption the word has undergone, I can't think of a more appropriate time to remember that this is at the core of what it means to be an American patriot. Another good point is that we are once again at an incredible moment in history, where each and every one of us has the opportunity to change the course of it, to decide whether the American experiment of freedom and democracy dies or survives its greatest threat since Washington's time. When we're young, we expect others to save the day in times like these. The cavalry is not coming. We are the cavalry now. It's truly up to each of us. It's not just a weight, it's a duty and an opportunity. Let's tell our children years from now that this was the year we saved democracy. And on that note, the deadline for registering to vote is tomorrow in Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Ohio, and Texas. I hope everyone's been on this way ahead of time, but if you haven't, do it now. If you're voting by mail, vote and turn it in as soon as you can. Make sure that everyone you know does the same. It's up to us. And that'll do it for today's Yang Daily. Fill out the Yang Daily social media poll, grab your Cancel Poverty mask, bookmark and share what it is to be a patriot, check out the Lincoln Project podcast, register everyone to vote, help recruit other organizations to the cause and get everyone to sign the UBI petition, flood Congress and Trump with calls, tweets, and letters using the Resist Bot or Income Movement easy contacts below. If you need help, consult Humanity Forward, the Income Movement Aid Database, the Mission Asset Fund, United Way, or the H3 podcast thread. And don't forget to Yang Daily.